Ever wonder why the roads you drive on and the bridges you cross seem to be constantly under construction but never really done? Well, the problem is probably a lot bigger than you think.
So get this, the American Society of Civil Engineers actually grades America's infrastructure. And the grade they gave it? A D+. Yeah, a D+. That's not great. It's a pretty huge sign that whatever we're doing to build and maintain this country just isn't cutting it.
And that leads to the big question, right? Why do public projects always seem to be late and way over budget? You see the headlines all the time, a new bridge, a new highway, and suddenly it's costing millions, even billions, more than planned, and it's years behind. What is going on?
And hey, this is not just a problem here. It is a global thing. Look at the UK. Their projects go over budget by an average of 47%. In Australia, they're running almost 24% behind schedule. The global average for this kind of inefficiency, it's sitting around 30%. This is a massive systemic problem.
So because of all these issues, governments are starting to think, okay, there has to be a better way. They're looking at a totally different model for getting things built. It's a new approach that's really starting to gain traction.
And that model is called a public-private partnership, or a P3 for short. The idea is actually pretty simple. Instead of the government juggling a bunch of different contracts, one for the design, one for construction, and another for maintenance, they sign one big long-term contract with a single private partner. And that company handles everything, from day one all the way through for, like, decades.
Now here's the absolute biggest reason why this is catching on. It all comes down to one thing: shifting risk.
Okay, let's break this down. Think about building a bridge. The old way, the traditional method, the government hires one company to design it, another to build it, another to maintain it. If something goes wrong, if there are delays, if costs explode, guess who pays for it? You do, the taxpayer. The main goal is just to get the lowest possible price for the construction part. But with the P3 method, it's totally different. One contract, one private partner. If the project is late or over budget, that's on them. It comes out of their pocket. So suddenly, their focus isn't just on building it cheap, it's on making sure it works well for the long haul.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The private partner has a huge incentive to do a good job. Why? Because they're on the hook for maintaining that asset for the next 20, 30 years. If they use cheap materials or cut corners during construction, they're the ones who are going to pay for it down the road. It completely changes the game.
So, okay, that's the theory. But how does this actually work out in the real world? Let's look at the payoff and, the price.
While the results can be pretty jaw-dropping. Take this study from the UK. Traditional projects, they went over budget by an average of 47%. The P3 projects, almost zero cost overruns. Zero. Why? Well, it's simple. The private company only makes a profit if they finish on time and on budget. That's a powerful motivator. And that's not just a one-off thing. Research from Syracuse University found the same trend right here in the US. They found that, P3s are way more likely to hit their deadlines and their budgets. It basically forces a kind of financial discipline that you just don't always see with the old way of doing things.
All right, so on time, on budget, this is starting to sound a little too good to be true, isn't it? So, what's the catch? Because there's always a catch.
And here it is. First off, the public loses flexibility. A city can't just decide to, say, delay some road repairs for a year to save a little money. Nope. They are locked into a long-term contract that says that road has to meet certain standards. Second, instead of one giant upfront cost, the government is now on the hook for decades of payments, kind of like a mortgage on a bridge. And last, this isn't some magic solution you can just apply everywhere. For a P3 to work, you need serious political will and some very, very smart financial planning from the get-go.
Okay, so this all feels a bit high level, right? Contracts, risk, financing. Why does any of this actually matter to you?
Because this is about way more than just concrete and steel. This whole debate directly impacts your everyday life. I mean, think about it. Your commute, the water from your tap, and yes, your taxes. The whole point of a P3 is to get you better services, smoother roads, bridges you can trust, reliable utilities. It's also designed to take the financial risk of a disaster project off of your shoulders as a taxpayer and put it onto the private company. But, and this is a big but, it fundamentally changes who's in charge of the stuff we all depend on. It shifts control from the public to the private sector.
So at the end of the day, the choice is really between public flexibility and private efficiency. What do we want more? Do we want our elected officials to have the freedom to make year-to-year decisions, even if it's kind of inefficient? Or do we want the on-time, on-budget performance that comes with handing over the keys and the risk to a private company for decades? There really is no easy answer here.
And that's the debate shaping the future of our country's infrastructure. We explain the trends every day. Follow for more.